The government vows there won't be any further delays of the waste charging scheme later this year. The temperature is expected to fall to around 10 degrees tonight. And in the U.S., Ron DeSantis drops out of the presidential race, endorsing Donald Trump instead. Hello and welcome to TVB News. Speaking on the postponement of the municipal solid waste charging scheme, Secretary for Environment and Ecology Tse Chin-wan said he has faith the scheme will not experience any further delays. He added that when the scheme is implemented on August 1st, free designated garbage bags will be given out to some, but not all, residents during the 6-month adaptation period. Timothy Lee tells us more.
The city's waste charging scheme has been subject to 2 delays as of now. This, as Secretary for Environment and Ecology Tse Chin-wan stressed the measure was postponed for a good reason, saying he wants residents to have a better understanding of the use of the designated garbage bags. This, as mock waste disposal exercises are set to be held in government buildings. Tse emphasized the policy will be successfully rolled out on the 1st of August. Regarding a recent video posted online claiming the designated garbage bag's poor quality, Tse posted a video for clarification. He said the texture and feel of the bag is similar to those of normal garbage bags. Speaking at a Legislative Council meeting, Tse noted the first 6 months of the waste charging scheme will be an adaptation period. He added authorities will distribute free designated bags with a 15-liter capacity to residents of village houses or public housing estates. Each household can get 20 bags per month.
全港免費派發膠袋3個月。
Lawmaker Michael Tien asked whether it would be a better option for the government to distribute free bags to all residents for the first 3 months of the scheme. This, as Tse said, residents do not need to depend on authorities for the bags, and stressed everyone is responsible for their own rubbish. The government noted it has already received over 6,000 applications for purchasing large batches of bags from property management companies and owners' corporations. Tse believes it will take 3 to 5 years for the community to fully embrace the scheme. Meanwhile, property management companies at some apartment buildings in the city expect a 10 to 20% increase in management fees in view of the extra work and manpower needed when the waste charging scheme comes into force. That's partly because the management companies have to buy designated garbage bags for fear that some tenants will not use the government-mandated bags. Timothy Lee, TVB News.
The cold weather warning is now in force. Several areas across the city saw temperatures around 6 degrees Celsius lower than yesterday, while the average temperature tonight is forecast to be around 10 degrees. Residents could be seen wearing several layers of clothing when out and about. This after a cold snap from Guangdong province continues to expand south. The observatory said temperatures can drop to 7 degrees tomorrow morning and a few degrees lower in the new territories. There's a chance of frost forming on high ground. The cold weather is expected to last throughout Wednesday and Thursday morning. The Hang Seng Index today closed more than 300 points lower at 14,961. Since the start of 2024, the benchmark equity gauge has cascaded more than 2,000 points. The Hang Seng Index once slumped to 14,794 points at its lowest, also marking the lowest level in 14 months. Almost all blue chips tumbled. Meituan dipped 4% to a 4-year low, while Tencent declined 3% to a 1-year low. But faring the worst were stocks of mainland property developers, China Resources and Longfor Group. The 2 blue chips cratered more than 10%. An early morning landslide in Yunnan province today killed at least 9 people, with dozens reported missing. Rescue efforts are underway in snowy sub-zero conditions as President Xi Jinping ordered swift action to extricate those buried under the debris. The landslide struck 2 villages in Zhaotong City just before 6 a.m. So far, more than 200 people were forced to evacuate the area. In Taiwan, EVA Air's pilot union has voted in favor of strike action during the Lunar New Year holidays. That has raised concerns over its possible impact on flights during the peak travel season. The pilot union began balloting members on possible strike action last month after talks with EVA Air over salaries broke down. No exact dates of the strike have been given, but the union said it would provide 24 hours notice before the start of any industrial action. The union expects long-haul destinations to be affected the most. The pilot group added it is still willing to talk to the airline until the last moment. EVA Air said it has been raising salaries steadily. In the U.S. presidential race, Florida Governor Ron DeSantis has suspended his campaign for the Republican nomination after falling far behind former President Donald Trump. Ahead of the New Hampshire primary, DeSantis is now endorsing Trump. That leaves former UN Ambassador Nikki Haley as the last serious Republican candidate to challenge Trump, though two-thirds of DeSantis' supporters say they will switch to Trump. Nazvi Karim with more.
Early last year, Florida Governor Ron DeSantis was considered a serious threat to Donald Trump in the 2024 Republican presidential primary race, sometimes beating the former president in head-to-head polls. But after a comprehensive defeat by Trump in Iowa, DeSantis on Sunday ended his campaign 2 days before the New Hampshire primary and endorsed Trump for the Republican nomination. DeSantis' campaign has floundered since the summer because of a flawed strategy to lure Trump's supporters and an apparent lack of ease with voters.
If there was anything I could do to produce a favorable outcome, more campaign stops, more interviews, I would do it. But I can't ask our supporters to volunteer their time and donate their resources if we don't have a clear path to victory. Accordingly, I am today suspending my campaign. It's clear to me that a majority of Republican primary voters want to give Donald Trump another chance. Trump is superior to the current incumbent, Joe Biden. That is clear. I signed a pledge to support the Republican nominee, and I will honor that pledge. He has my endorsement because we can't go back to the old Republican guard of yesteryear, a repackaged form of warmed-over corporatism that Nikki Haley represents.
Trump, on the campaign trail in various New Hampshire cities, would often call rival DeSantis DeSanctimonious or DeSanctus. But for the support of DeSantis, he only had praise.
Before we begin, I'd like to take time to congratulate Ron DeSantis and, of course, a really terrific person who I've gotten to know, his wife Casey, for having run a great campaign for president. But as you know, he left the campaign trail today at 3 p.m. and in so doing, he was very gracious and he endorsed me, so I appreciate it. I appreciate that, and I also look forward to working with Ron and everybody else to defeat crooked Joe Biden.
Haley, accused by DeSantis of forging a moderate campaign to win over Democrat voters, was reported to have said "made the best woman win" when told about the Florida governor's exit. She was asked if she had spoken to DeSantis at a rally in Epping, New Hampshire.
I haven't talked to Governor DeSantis. I don't know anything about his plans.
Nazvi Karim, TVB News.
Benjamin Netanyahu has rejected a ceasefire demand that may have seen hostages released, but Hamas remaining in control of Gaza. The Israeli Prime Minister says Hamas must be destroyed to maintain Israel's security. The health ministry in Gaza now puts the death toll from the war in the Gaza Strip at more than 25,000. David Garrett reports.
אנחנו ממשיכים במלחמה בכל החזיתות.
Benjamin Netanyahu shows no signs of stopping or slowing the war with Hamas. As the Israeli military released what they say are tanks and soldiers fighting Hamas in the south of the Gaza Strip, the Prime Minister told Israelis,
החמאס דורש תמורת שחרור חטופינו.
in exchange for the release of our hostages, Hamas demands the end of the war, the withdrawal of our forces, the release of all the murderers and rapists. If we agree to this, our warriors fell in vain. If we agree to this, we will not be able to guarantee security. The Israeli leader went on to say there is no substitute for victory. Outside Netanyahu's residence, there has been widespread dissent. Perhaps these protests by the families of hostages prompted Netanyahu's rallying call. As Israel announced the death of a hostage, these people asked Netanyahu to do more to bring their loved ones home.
This Prime Minister totally failed us. After 107 days, we are demanding that they fix the failure from the 7th, and that can only start with returning all of the hostages alive. Bringing home 136 hostages in bags can never be considered any part of a victory. We demand that the government do its part, bring a deal, get the deal done, and bring home the remaining hostages alive.
The death toll in Gaza is more than 25,000, according to the health ministry in Gaza, as Israel continues to hunt down Hamas by land and sea. 178 Palestinians killed in the past 24 hours, one of the deadliest days of the 16-week onslaught. In nearby Khan Yunis, these injured children should survive for now. Distraught parents carry their kids into the hospital. This is the fallout from the latest Israeli strike in the southern area. The mother has to be dragged away as her child is treated. She is screaming. The child is screaming and bleeding. Doctors go to work on the infant. The child is bandaged up after medical workers stem the bleeding. Then a man towards the other end of the age spectrum is carried in. He also suffered a gash across the head. He has to wait to be treated. Hospital workers are too busy with other casualties. David Garrett, TVB News.
EU foreign ministers are in Brussels pushing for an end to the Israel-Hamas war and discussing how the future could look. They say a way must be found so Israelis and Palestinians can exist peacefully side by side. The group are due to meet with Israeli Foreign Minister Israel Katz, but Benjamin Netanyahu has told his allies there is no chance for a two-state solution.
Those remarks by Prime Minister Netanyahu are unacceptable and do not contribute in any way to the prospects of peace. And I would say to Prime Minister Netanyahu, he needs to lead, he needs to listen to the vast majority of the world who want peace and who want a two-state solution, on the basis that a two-state solution is the ultimate security guarantee to Israel and to Israeli citizens and to Palestinians in terms of a future prospect of living in harmonious coexistence.
Still ahead, police arrest nearly 220 people over alleged scams and money laundering activities. The Chief Justice says Hong Kong's judiciary remains robust as he opens the legal year 2024. And India's Prime Minister opens a controversial Hindu temple built on the ruins of a historical mosque in Ayodhya. Welcome back. Police have arrested nearly 220 people in the past 2 weeks over alleged scams and money laundering activities. The suspects were said to have conned members of the public out of more than $500 million. Among the victims are professionals, including accountants and bank managers. In one particular case, the victim was swindled out of $19 million. Jackie Lin reports.
The 2-week crackdown in January unearthed 146 cases. They involve a whopping 558 victims and more than $500 million. Aged between 17 and 80, many of the victims boast high education backgrounds and salaries, including accountants, auditors, and people working in the legal field. One software engineer lost more than $19 million, the largest amount reported in the operation. Explaining how the victims were reeled in, Wu Manyi, Chief Inspector of Hong Kong Island's Regional Crime Prevention Office, said the 36-year-old saw the new deposits in his account initially, so he continued to follow scammers' instructions to funnel more money to their accounts. The victim was found to have even borrowed money from his family, having made 81 transactions to 42 different third-party bank accounts in just 5 months. Later, he was unable to reach the scammers. The 219 people arrested aged between 17 and 77 were arrested on suspicion of obtaining property by deception, conspiracy to defraud, and money laundering. 2 men and a woman have allegedly used online platforms to lure others into selling their bank accounts to launder some $60 million in crime proceeds. Most other suspects, including housewives and fitness instructors, were said to have held stooge accounts.
各位市民都可以留心。
The police said even though these people did not directly dupe the victims, they have facilitated the crime syndicates in their scams, and these accomplices also have to face serious consequences. The police said they will consult the Department of Justice and seek heavier penalties for fraud and money laundering to ramp up the deterrent effect. Jackie Lin, TVB News.
Almost half of all crimes committed in Hong Kong last year were scams, with mainland students among the victims. Police have rolled out a plan to protect these students by further promoting anti-scam messages. Authorities recorded more than 37,000 fraud cases in the first 11 months of last year. The figure made up over 40% of all crimes for the period and involved $8.3 billion. The New Territories South Regional Police Headquarters noted it receives at least one report involving mainland students being scammed every week. As part of the measure to protect mainland students from such scams, the police will erect more installations written in simplified Chinese characters promoting anti-scam messages. They will be placed in MTR stations as well as housing estates where mainland students usually reside. The ceremonial opening of the legal year 2024 was held at City Hall in Central today. The annual event began with Chief Justice Andrew Chung inspecting the Police Guard of Honor. In his speech, Chung quoted President Xi Jinping as saying the common law system in Hong Kong is here to stay as a national policy. The president was also quoted as saying the system helps with the success of the SAR's one country, two systems principle. Chung added that there's also a need to retain and find legal talent for Hong Kong courts. As for those who doubted the court's judgment and judicial independence, both the Chief Justice and Secretary for Justice Paul Lam noted how Hong Kong's judiciary has remained robust.
When a court makes an unpopular or even wrong decision, it does not follow that the justice system or the judiciary is malfunctioning or requires some reform and changes. The system of appeals exists precisely to rectify errors and clarify legal issues.
The real problem is that many people did not bother to do so before passing their own judgment. For any reasonable and objective bystander who is eager to seek the truth, he or she will not see one iota of evidence that the judiciary's independent judicial power has been compromised in cases involving national security.
Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi today opened a controversial Hindu temple built on the ruins of a historical mosque in the holy city of Ayodhya. The temple delivers a key promise for Modi's Bharatiya Janata Party as he seeks a rare third term in power in elections due in May. The site has long been a religious flashpoint for India's majority Hindu and Muslim communities. The demolition of the Mughal-built 16th century mosque in 1992 triggered bloody riots across India. Modi was seen standing near the giant statue of Lord Ram, Hinduism's most revered deity. Hindus say the previous Babri Mosque was built on temple ruins that marked the birthplace of Lord Ram. The dispute ended in 2019 when India's Supreme Court granted the site to Hindus while giving Muslims a different plot of land. Britain's Duchess of York, Sarah Ferguson, has been diagnosed with skin cancer. The 64-year-old, who has 2 children, was married to Prince Andrew. Fergie, as she is known, has previously received care for breast cancer. She's now been diagnosed with malignant melanoma. The Duchess has had several moles removed. That's the news. Thanks for watching. Pearl Magazine is up shortly.